Guys, I cannot guarantee my own children won't be obnoxious in this video because it is, after all, Remote Wednesday here on CV Pond where I live. So the idea is that you are still drafting your rough draft, right? And one of the ways that we can improve our writing is by studying published text to write leads. Now, we are talking about the genre of realistic fiction, but these can very easily happen in all genres of literature, including poetry, including nonfiction. If we like a way a writer writes, regardless of the genre, I think it can still happen. So I hope your drafts are going well. You understand how I feel about these deadlines. You understand that deadlines are necessary. You also understand that it's not like day to day. I think very much, especially with this hybrid model, it's like week to week, So the drafts should be done by Friday for your own quality of life. So today, as part of this, I want to teach you that just when writers are the most fired up to write, which is hopefully now, when they've just written their lead, they force themselves to pause. They review what they've written and they revise it. Now, revision takes some sort of, for lack of a better way to explain it, bravery, because you have to be brave enough to look at your own writing, analyze it, and say, this could be better, right? The revise, I apologize for my typo, revise the lead because by doing so, they revise their entire story. Sometimes you do this as a writer with the help of a professional, right? So what is a lead? In case you missed it, for whatever reason, I've said it a couple times, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but I also think some things are worth repeating. You already know that the beginning of a piece of writing, any piece of writing, is called a lead. Because this opening is the way the author leads the reader into the text, right? The lead entices people to walk through the doorway and into the story. And I think sometimes it can happen within the context of a chapter as well. And I'm actually going to show you a couple of those. So maybe one of the most important things in writing, I often think that leads are one of the most important things for writers to work on when they revise, because a lead is what ushers readers through the door and gets them to read the rest of the story. They say, you might be saying to yourself, well, that's all well and good, but how do I create a great lead? Let me show you a couple of examples. One other thing I just want to mention in regards to leads and other things is some of us have written our story plan. And one of the weaknesses perhaps in those plans, and I would be equally guilty of this, is that there is no sort of climactic event. So while you're thinking about these leads, you also need to be thinking about the overall sort of action in the story and asking yourself, is my story arc looking like this, right? Right? Does it have a trajectory where there's an opportunity for growth for my character? And if there's not, how can I perhaps improve that event, maybe with the assistance of a lead? So mentor texts are good examples of writing. So when you want to learn to do something, you can study texts written by authors you admire. I will fix the typos, by the way, when I post this. After you look really closely at exactly how other authors pulled something off, you can try some of the techniques in your own writing. And I'll show you a couple of examples. These are 3 leads that I found in chapters 5 and 6, okay? So this is from page 69. So this is John sort of talking to himself. This is the italicized, that slanty writing, right, is his sort of inner monologue, right? And it's not good. It's not healthy. He's really hard on himself. So John, I know I've been gone a lot lately. So that's the dad talking to John. It starts to happen again, that thing where my chest tightens like a balloon is inflating in my rib cage, squeezing the air out of my lungs. John, cleverly says, and I blink at her, clearing my vision. She puts her knees up and scoots closer to Will, patting the space next to her, like I'm just waiting for an invitation to sit. Think of something else, not Dad leaving again, not being me being responsible for everything that happened since, being responsible for my brother. Nice shelter, John, Stu says. I look at my brother sitting cross-legged with his forearms on his knees, his head tilted to the side, that cowlick at his hairline pushing his hair the opposite way, his mouth pressed in a sarcastic grin. So one of the way that this writer uses a lead is she sort of she goes between sort of two times, right? So that we're very much in John's head, and then we're very much in the moment in the tent. That is one way that we can lead the reader, where they're experiencing both the inner monologue, as they call it, of the character, as well as externally what's going on. And they're inviting the reader to get more information from our narrator, right? Also from 96 Miles is from page 73. Okay, and this is when they're having a conversation. I feel like this is a good piece of dialogue that is inviting the reader, because Stu says, I'm only useless when I want to be. And you're like, what? I got to read further to like hear what he means by that. I'm only useless when I want to be, Stu says, which might be true, but he's definitely losing ground here. Will is gnawing on his jerky, watching them go back and forth like it's a tennis match. So this is an argument between Stu and Cleverly, because Cleverly intervenes and she says, well, I mean, could you have set up the shelter? And she's defending John in this part of the chapter, okay? Cleverly shakes her head. You couldn't even hold the stake in place, let alone hammer them into the hard ground. John got them up, so stop acting like his strength isn't important to our survival. I immediately feel blood rushing to my cheeks, and I'm not typically a blusher. I mean, I shouldn't be blushing over this at all. That's the worst part, because I know she's just trying to take Stu down a notch, and it worked because it shuts him up. But my body's reacting as if she has just given a speech on the wonders of my right biceps. So there's a couple different things going on here. There is a brewing argument between Cleverly and Stu. There is John's inner monologue where he realizes he's being defended, and then he's embarrassed because this is obviously he and Cleverly like have a thing. It's no like thing that either of them act on throughout the course of the novel, but it's like, oh my God, there's a girl, like there's a boy, right? There's that moment, and he feels awkward. He doesn't quite know what to do. So finally, there is one other lead, and this is like a true lead in the sense that it's a beginning of a chapter, and it's also a technique known as flashback. So this might be something that you employ as a writer. If things were different, I wouldn't think twice about waving. This is from page 80, which is the first page of chapter 6. If things were different, I wouldn't think twice about waving down that truck and asking for help. But having a gun pressed to your forehead kind of changes how you see the world. So obviously, you hear the word gun, and you as a reader, you're like, what's going on, right? That morning, the day our world changed, Stu and I had linked together some long extension cords, plugged one end into the generator, and moved the box fan into the family room. So then the writer is saying the day our world changed, like that's pivotal. I got to read on, right? It was rattling like a freight train, tilting back, leaning against a chair so the air would blow up toward the ceiling and not disturb the cards we had laid out on the family room rug. So obviously, you as the reader are like paying attention, because you're like, the way our world changed. Okay, this is definitely a lead I need to pay attention to. Okay. So as you said about continuing with your draft, or as the program suggests, revising your draft, you want to think about these leads. Where are moments in my writing where it looks rather dull, and I can write leads that invite the reader into the action of the story? More to the point, are those leads leading the reader, or me as the writer, into this climactic scene? Because if I don't have some kind of pivotal scene that is inviting growth of my character, there's a problem. It's not really realistic fiction, and it's not really following the trajectory of what we think of as like a normal story arc. Regardless of the story arcs you've selected from the 5 that I presented, all stories sort of follow this natural pattern of like, there is an exciting moment. And so ask yourself, where is my exciting moment? And if there's not one, be honest and make the appropriate revisions. Okay. That is all I have for today. I know it's a lot. I know it's a lot to work on. The next piece of this is the revision process, or the talking about it process with a friend. And to be quite honest, I haven't quite figured out how that's going to work, but I look forward to figuring it out with you, both in person and remotely. So today is Wednesday, the end of Remote Wednesday. I'm going to schedule this to come out either Thursday or Friday. I haven't quite decided yet. And other than your reading chapters 5 and 6 and the Google Forms, which I will adjust as needed in terms of the point values, I apologize for that. And then finishing your draft, those are the things you need to work on. And of course, watching this totally riveting video. So again, let me know what you might need, and I look forward to hearing from you and reading your stuff. Thanks for your time. Take care, guys.